Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. It's so great to have you here. Today we'll be making this delicious brown butter banana bread. If you have a look here, you see me slicing it. It looks absolutely delicious and it's so easy to make. Let me show y'all. First of all, you need to brown 150 grams of butter. Now you don't need a lot of heat for this. You just need very low heat and allow the butter to melt first and then gradually starts browning. So here's the process here of what it will look like. It will be foamy at first. Don't worry, there's nothing wrong with it. Now it will eventually brown to look like this. At this point, you can actually stop browning it, or you can decide to brown it a little bit further. But whatever it is that you do, make sure you do not increase the heat at all. Just let it brown. Okay. So here is me mixing it up and allowing the foam to actually reduce a little bit than what it is. And here it is. Now that I'm satisfied with the brown color, and I switched off the heat at this point. So now it's time for me to sift it because I don't need the debris at the bottom. The debris at the bottom is the milk solids in the butter. So if you see, don't worry, there's nothing wrong with it at all. Just sieve it at this point and do not use the brown bits. You only just need the melted bit. Okay, now once it's been sifted, you can then put that aside and use that for later. Now, one thing you do need to remember is that you can't use the butter at this point now because it's still quite hot. You need it to cool down completely before you can add your sugar or your butter, or else it will scramble everything and you don't want that at all. Okay, so here's what it looks like, finished look, and then set it aside and allow it to cool completely. As the butter is getting cold, it's now time to mash the bananas. I use 4 medium ripe bananas. As you can see, they're very ripe, but not overly ripe because you don't want it to be too sweet. So what you do is then take out the skin from the banana and put it into a bowl and mash. Now, I'm someone that actually likes my banana to be quite chunky in the banana bread. I don't like it completely smooth. But however, if you want it completely smooth, at this point, you don't need to put it into the bowl. Just put it straight into a blender, or actually mash it first and then put it into a blender to puree completely. But if you like it to have a bit of clump, or you'd like to see a little bit of bits in your banana bread, you can just do it just like you see me doing here. So I'm mashing it gently, and at this point, this is the consistency that I want. I'm happy with this, and I'll set this aside for me to use later. But remember, like I said, if you don't want it to be too chunky or you don't want to see bits, just blend it until it is nicely pureed for you to use. Okay, now in another bowl, I'll need 2 cups of flour. So here I'm using 2 cups of flour, and then I'm also adding a teaspoon of baking powder, teaspoon of baking soda, salt, nutmeg, and cinnamon. For me, I like the combination of nutmeg and cinnamon, but however, if you're not a fan of nutmeg or cinnamon, you can use either of them, or you can skip it totally. It's absolutely fine. Now mix this thoroughly because you want to make sure that the baking powder and baking soda and salt is well incorporated. Once that is done, set that aside. Now that the butter is cold, I'm now adding the sugar into there and breaking it up gently. Don't worry if your brown sugar looks like this. It's fine. Brown sugar usually tends to clump up, but it's okay. Now whisk it gently before adding in your very first egg. You will need 2 eggs for this recipe. Once you add the egg, now whisk. I'm using medium 2 speed, so 2 speed on my hand mixer. If you're using the stand mixer, make sure you're using the lowest. Don't use the highest at all because you don't need a lot of air in this. Now that the first egg has been mixed, I'm then adding the second one, and then I'll mix again. As you can see, the color is gone lighter and the volume of the content is actually doubled, so that's fine. That's the egg incorporating into the mix, and also showing that the egg and the sugar and butter is well mixed thoroughly. Okay, now I then added my mashed bananas, and I also added salted caramel. I like salted caramel, but if you don't, you can actually skip it totally or just use vanilla. But for me, salted caramel brings out the flavor of brown butter and even brown sugar as well. So by the time you have your finished baked goods, it's very distinct and it tastes absolutely amazing. But if you don't have salted caramel, just use vanilla. It's still fine. Once you've mixed it to be nice and smooth, it's now time for you to add it to the flour. For me, I didn't add it all at once to the flour. I added half and then I added the other half later. So this is me adding the first half of it and then mixing. I used the spatula at this point. I didn't use the stand mixture at all because it's not needed. And I'm also using the folding technique. The folding technique helps it to have less air in the batter, because what will happen is when you tend to overmix, the banana bread will come out really dense and you wouldn't like it at all. So please just remember that the folding technique is great here. As you can see, there's still bits of flour and it's getting quite thick. Don't worry, remember we still have the rest of the mixture to add. Now add the rest of the mixture into the cake batter and then mix. Okay, once you've mixed that very well, it will turn out nice and smooth, and also the color will change. So keep mixing gently as you see me doing here, folding gently and just turning and turning. It might look like it's a long process. It's actually not. By the time you're done, you won't even recognize that. And there it is. So you can see the colors changed. It's nice and smooth, and I'm still using the folding technique. So now it's time for me to put it into my loaf pan. So I buttered my loaf pan before pouring in the batter. With the butter, I only used about 75 to 80% of it. I didn't use all of it at all because the bread needs to expand as it's baking. So make sure that you don't fill it too much to the top, or else when it rises, it will just burst and you won't like it at all. So shake it for a little bit and then also tap it about 3 times. This will ensure that the air bubbles escapes. The remaining batter I added into a ramekin dish because I wanted to serve it as a dessert, and I baked it at 160 degrees for 50 to 60 minutes, and here is what it looks like. You can see the color is absolutely beautiful and it came out really nice. I served the one in the ramekin dish with vanilla ice cream and also some salted caramel. I wanted to try it out and see what it would taste like being served as a dessert, and I think I really like it. I'm sure you would like it too. You can use any kind of ice cream. You can use chocolate or vanilla, but just make sure you try it. It's really, really good. It was moist, and as you can see for yourself, there it is. And this is me cutting in the banana bread. You can still see the banana bits, just like I said I like, and the smell was really, really good. So here is what it looks like, your brown butter banana bread. It was so easy to make, like I said, and I'm sure you also found it easy too. So thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll see you in my next